Hi everyone, welcome back. I'm really excited to share some of the new products I received as part of the May 2019 stencil release from Altenew. This release contains 6 wonderfully versatile stencils, and today I will showcase these products in several projects. I will focus more on 3 different rules instead of a complete walkthrough through my cards. These are simple rules I follow when using stencils, but of course, rules are made to be broken, and I encourage you to do what you love. Let me know in the comments below what you think of my approach to stencils at the end of this video. If this is your first time at my YouTube channel, welcome. If you like what you see from me, please subscribe and hit the bell icon so you never miss a future video. If you're visiting during the giveaway period, make sure you leave a comment on my blog post linked below for this release and you could be entered to win a gift card from Altenew. So let's get on with using these stencils. Now, there is no hierarchy to these rules. They do not follow any particular order, nor are they mutually exclusive. My first rule is creating opposing patterns or creating balance. I'll show you 2 examples of what I mean by this, but simply put, if a stencil has a uniform and repeating pattern, use the stencil to create an irregular and singular image. The first example card uses the Altenew Broken Chevron stencil. And by the way, I have affiliate links located in the description box below for some of the products used. For a more complete listing of the materials used, please visit my blog. Anyway, you'll see that I'm only using part of the image and Altenew texture paste to only cover part of my panel. For now, I will set aside this panel and let it dry, and I will show you the completed card in a later example. Just trust me on this. The second example is the opposite of the rule from the first stencil. You'll see that this Altenew Deco Wonder stencil is somewhat irregular. So this means I will try to keep a uniform appearance to my panel by creating a slight ombre of colors by ink blending. In this example, I did a light teal gradient for a bright spring feel. Now, when I do ink blends on a stencil, I never immediately clean my stencil. Make sure you use that residual ink left from the ink blending by spraying the stencil with water and stamp the stencil onto another clean panel. For those of you who love the distress, vintage, weathered look, this is perfect for light backgrounds, and you will see me use this technique on another card in this video. Using the same stencil, I'm going to dry emboss onto some gray cardstock, again following the rule of keeping things regular on this irregular stencil pattern. With these 3 panels I just created, I'm going to die cut all 3 at once using the Altenew Mega Alphabet U die and inlay the letter in opposing backgrounds, and boom, 3 cards for the price of 1. Those of you who love to mass produce, this is perfect for creating a whole bunch of unique cards at once. Pretty sweet, huh? Okay, on to my second rule. I didn't lose you yet, right? Altenew is known for these wonderfully layered flowers using stamping inks, so with this release comes a layering stencil. But who says we have to use just ink? For the second rule on my list, I like to layer textures. Use more than just ink as your medium. In this example, I'm using the Altenew Floral Garden Layering Stencil. This one is super easy to line up, and with how wide the stencil is, you could make 2 panels at once, which is what I did. I created a gradient for each of the flowers and leaves with ink blending. Then I added details on the petals and leaves with colored pencil. And by the way, if you've taken the Altenew Academy course called Zentangle for card makers, this should look fairly familiar to you. I embossed the centers of the flowers with Altenew Platinum Crisp embossing powder. I cut apart one of the panels and made my own arrangement. Remember this panel I made with the texture paste? I used it as a background and added some splatter with jet black ink spray from Altenew. I love how soft and romantic this one turned out. With the second ink blended image, I muted the background with a panel of vellum. I overlaid one of the Mega Greetings die from the Altenew Mega Greetings 2 stamp and die set. I got these small embellishments from a crafty friend. I've got a link to her IG and blog over on my blog, so you can give her a follow and ask her where she got these wonderful jewel embellishments because I love them and I have no idea where she got them from. On my second example to this layering rule, I used the Altenew Heart Builder stencil and created another gradient. But to add some interest, I increased the contrast diagonally across the panel. Then I did some light spraying with Altenew ink spray and Cosmic Berry to add some subtle texture and layering. It's almost like that robin's egg texture that was trendy for a bit. I added a die cut sentiment from Altenew Thank You Die and adhered those wonderful jewels again. Alrighty, the last rule I'm going to share summarizes these last 2 rules and adds an element of its own. Like I said an hour ago, these guidelines are not mutually exclusive, and they have plenty of overlap. This last rule is creating stencils to create a focal point on the card. Using Altenew Illusion Spiral was an obvious choice in creating a focal point since the rays radiate out from the center of the stencil. Side note, since this stencil is regular, I'm going to make it irregular by stamping in layering inks, rotating the stencil, and also blending the rays out at different distances from the center. I added some ink splatters on this as well to break up the uniformity of the pattern. The stamp set I used for this card is Altenew Way Too Sweet. I did that distress look again by wetting the stencil after ink blending and created a softer second panel and card. On this second example of the same stencil, this time I layered texture and ink just like my second rule. I created almost a drop shadow to the texture paste by ink blending gray ink underneath the texture paste. I added this die cut and colored succulent from Altenew Succulent Stamp and Die Set and placed it in the center of the rays. The stencil is eccentric just to enforce the irregularity of the pattern. It's all about balance, people, just think of it that way. For my final card, I used the Altenew Ombre Stripe stencil to create my own focal point. Now you'll see that the product does not create an obvious focal point, but what I create is two areas of color, two areas of void space, and where these intersect is my sentiment, right in the center of my card, almost like forming an X on my panel. Or the areas of color and the splatter are diagonal that lead your eyes from one corner of the card to the opposite corner. I used the Altenew Mega Greetings 2 stamp and die set again to create this sentiment. And that's enough of my rambling. What did you think of this release? Do you have a favorite? Are they all your favorite? Again, these rules are my perspective on stencils and merely suggestions on how to go about using your Altenew stencils or any of your stencils. If you have any questions about these techniques, please don't be afraid to reach out in my comment section below, IG, or my blog. Thanks so much to Altenew for having me as a guest designer for this release, and also thank you so much for stopping by and have the best day.